Hello and welcome to the About My Brain I4 Neuroleader webinar, brought to you by Brooke Schiller, me, at Insight Partners Consulting. So let's just dive right in. Let's talk a little bit about why we're here today. And I'd like to start with a quote from Dr. Rita King, a NASA scientist. She says that we're now living in the information age. And the information age is the theoretical period between the information age or beyond the information age, where creativity and imagination will become the primary creators of economic value. This contrasts in a major way with the information age, where analysis and thinking were the main activities. So let's talk about how we got here. Let's look back a little bit at the evolution of leadership. So you may remember what we refer to as the industrial age. The manager was king and at the heart of everything we did. It equated to control, and that equaled power. It was systematic, task-focused, measured. It was about I know, meaning the manager. And feedback, what's that? It just didn't exist. Next, we evolved to the information age, which many would say we're still in. It's leader focused. And in that age, we recognized that knowledge became power. That was our currency, knowledge. It was about visionary leadership. It was people focused and is people focused. Courageous. It's now about the collective and we know. And feedback began, but it was really one way, from leader to direct report. And might I suggest that we have now evolved into the imagination age. And this is the age of the neuroleader, where the currency of power is really about ideas. It's about being a creator. It's brain focused. Vulnerability is king. Instead of being we know, it's who knows. There's so much that's unknown that we need to figure out together. And feedback is happening in every direction, multi-directional, not just 360, but it's coming from all sorts of different sources. So we have evolved to the neuroleader imagination age. And I'd like just to take a moment to ask you, with that being true, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to leadership development? And often I hear it really comes down to helping people understand the value of the soft skills. And actually, that term kind of makes me cringe a little bit. Soft skills. I would argue that leadership and management and people skills are among the hardest skills that we face. And the reason for that is that hardcore skills are things that we understand, the technical aspects of our job. And we call them soft skills because we don't understand them. And I would venture to say it makes us feel better. Soft skills, oh, not important. We don't need to focus on those. But what we're going to be doing through the use of this model and these tools that I'm going to talk about today is moving the soft skills over into the realm of what we do understand. And we understand those through the building of knowledge around the brain and the body. And we are making the so-called soft skills hardcore skills. They are integrated and necessary for us to do our best work. So you might be involved in a project where you need to determine high potential employees. Many of us are. And I will argue today that high potential really looks different than perhaps it looked before. High potential in the realm of the brain-body connection means a highly integrated and optimized brain and body. It's those people, those individuals that are going to outperform the rest. And it's often, dare I say, always overlooked. How often are you hearing brain and body in the work environment? I remember a time when we really said, leave your personal life at the door. Were we asking people to leave their brain at the door? No, but we were asking them only to use it for the technical or the hardcore skills. And things have changed, particularly as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are all recognizing higher levels of burnout and disengagement. So if we can focus on the optimized brain and body, why wouldn't we? So our agenda for the short half an hour we have together today is to welcome you, give you a brief introduction to the program. We're going to talk about what's in it for you and your role when it comes to integrating the brain and body. We're going to open things up for Q&A, and we're going to talk about next steps. So without further ado, just a brief introduction. My name is Brooke Schiller. I'm a facilitator, keynote speaker, coach, consultant, and thought partner. I believe that leadership isn't about titles. Leadership is a skill that can be developed at any level, at any stage in your career. I believe that the most successful businesses are powered by cultures that embrace limitless leadership and understand that leaders can and should come from all parts of the business. My mission is to inspire and activate leadership cultures. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. So you may have heard this expression, a VUCA world. What does that mean exactly? VUCA is an acronym that stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Can you relate to that at all? Does this feel like your world on any given day? This was true before the pandemic, and it's certainly more true even now. So the answer to this VUCA world is the About My Brain, I4 Neuroleader model. Now, you might expect me to say that because that's what this webinar is about today. But let me just talk a little bit about the competencies and how they can solve for some of the biggest challenges we face. Let's talk about the 4 I's. Why do we call it I4? The first I is imagination. And to deal effectively with the volatile conditions that we face that are generated by continuous change, unrelenting change, dare I say, we need imagination. Inspiration is the second I. And inspiration is what's going to help us overcome the uncertainty created by unpredictable circumstances. Integration. Integration helps us realize the connections between different variables in this complex world. A balanced and integrated brain is key. And finally, intuition. Intuition helps us resolve the ambiguity of our times, in which the sequences of simple and linear cause and effect no longer work. And I know intuition often gets poo-pooed as a woo-woo skill, but we all have it. It's what keeps us safe in the face of potential danger. It's that little message in the backs of our brains that say when we need to be on alert. So why would we toss that out without further consideration? We need to tap in to our intuition. So imagination, inspiration, integration, and intuition are our 4 I's, the I4 model. So I have more to cover, and I'm going to invite you to stay to the end of our webinar today, because after I've finished what I want to cover today, I'm going to show you how to receive a complimentary I4 Neuroleader model 360 and a coaching session with me. So stay to the end and you'll know how you can do that. So there are several functions of our brain, and this is just to name a few. Hi, Tammy, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. There are several functions of our brain, and these are just a few, but let's look at where the different functions or the different aspects of our brain are located and the functions that reside within each one. So just take a look here at this slide. Imagine, feel, think, reflect. All those are in the prefrontal cortex. There are areas associated with acting and prioritizing. There are areas associated with setting goals, intuiting, deciding, predicting, sensing. And there are areas associated with planning and communicating. I don't know about you, but I look at all of these functions and I'm like, yeah, I need all of these. I use all of these on any given day in my work. And I bet you do too. So when these functions are optimized, here's what you can expect to happen. It translates into people who are quick thinkers, who are more tolerant, diligent, determined, and fair. People who embrace change, who are assured, who are daring, who are open to the unknown, who are able to perceive what's going on in the environment, who are expressive and mindful. People who are disciplined, original, and visionary. Again, I can't think of a word on this slide that I wouldn't value. And think about the challenges that you face in your world and how these functions would help you. So with that being said, a really great solution resides in the I4 Neuroleader model. As I mentioned, it's called I4 because it consists of 4 main competencies that all start with the letter I: integration, inspiration, imagination, and intuition. And then as we tease it out, each of those competencies directly correlate with the 4 pillars, what I like to call the business outcomes. So those business outcomes are performance, collaboration, innovation, and agility. So let me restate those because those are that's the first time I'm saying those. Performance, collaboration, innovation, and agility. In my years doing client work, this is what I get asked for all of the time. But most of the time I get asked for a quick fix. Can you just write a program that's going to solve for this? No, the answer is no, but I have tools that can help. It really comes back to an integrated brain and body. Now, I realize that this is a new leadership model and there are a ton out there. Okay, I use several of them. And leadership models are useful to help leaders and organizations focus on the behaviors that matter in order to make a business profitable and sustainable. So that's why the proliferation of leadership models has become so vast, right? So a model helps us have a common language for how we think about leadership. And the I4 Neuroleader model uses the term and uses competencies, which many of the organizations I support also use. So there's a direct link there. And like I said, when we link performance, collaboration, innovation, and agility, there's a lot there to desire. So when you look at the model across the top, this is the framework. Across the top are our competencies. And then at the top, these are called pillars because they are the pillar of skills to learn within each one. So as I scroll down the agility pillar, you see in our model, we'll be talking about intuition, awareness, influence, and adaptability. In the pillar of innovation, we'll be focusing on imagination, drive, curiosity, and attitude. In the pillar of collaboration, we'll be looking at inspiration, communication, generosity, and courage. And in the pillar of performance, we're going to be looking at integration, balance, ethics, and mental readiness. So I would just invite you, if you are willing, to let me know, out of these 4 competencies, what's your top priority? And Tammy, if you're able, if you want to just go ahead and type it into the chat, or I welcome you to come off mute. And for those of you who are watching the recording, just write this down wherever you're taking notes. Out of the 4 competencies, what's your top priority? The problem with that is you may say all of them, right? How do I choose? And that's the idea. Most of these, if not all of these, are top of mind for people I work with today. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the curriculum, the I4 Neuroleader curriculum. Now you will see, if you open up the chat, I'm going to pop a link into the chat. And that is the link to the About My Brain website, where you can download the white paper that you'll see a picture of here on the left. It talks about the model, the curriculum, and how it fits, the business case, how it fits into the VUCA world. You'll also see the pillars. And I'm going to scroll over here to the right because you'll see under agility, I mentioned a moment ago, one of the pillar topics is intuition, and then we break it down even further. So we have competency level, pillar level, and then the elements that we talk about within that pillar. So we go really deep into these topics. So you'll see under intuition, just as an example, we talk about the value of intuitive insights, decision-making, and what to do with that inner sense of knowing, how to apply it to the business world. So let's talk a little bit about some of the traits of each of these. I asked you to prioritize them, but let's talk a little bit about the traits. When performance is high, we see individuals who are present, have good judgment, are humanistic, and can deal with pressure without losing it. When we see high levels of innovation, we see individuals who are creative, who don't give up, who are optimistic, and actually enjoy problem solving. They gravitate towards it. When we see high levels of agility, we see individuals who can influence, can adapt without resisting, can tolerate complexity, and have a sense of what may happen next. And when we see high levels of collaboration, we see individuals who can inspire, are brave, they think beyond self, they communicate effectively. Again, I don't know about you, but these all sound pretty good to me. I can also see aspects of myself on good days here, and when maybe I'm not fully functioning at my best. So it really brings up my self-awareness. So I'm talking a little bit about the word traits here. You'll see that in 4 different places. So let's define a little bit about how in this model we define a competency. So it starts with abilities. Okay, you have a long list of abilities. Maybe I have some examples here. Maybe you have an ability to memorize things. You have a photographic memory. Traits are aspects of you that help define you. They're traits that are unique to you. And maybe an example of that is being generous. Attitudes are mindsets. So, are you willing to take risks? And behaviors are the things you actually do, the habits you create. And then, as an example, asks for feedback or seeks out feedback. So, in our model, we talk about abilities, traits, attitudes, and behaviors. All of those together are what we define as a competency. And we look at all four between the 360 and the coaching and the teamwork that we can do with this model. So I'm just going to take a moment here to show you a little bit about what it looks like when things are working and when things are not. And I'm going to connect the traits or the competencies, within a person and how that translates into business results. Remember in one of our first slides, I talked about soft skills moving over to hardcore. Well, here it is right here. So you'll see here on the left what it looks like when someone is operating at a high level of performance or when a team is operating at a high level of performance. And then you'll see how that translates over here on the right-hand side. High levels of productivity, resourceful and solution-driven teams, harmonious environments, better decisions, efficiency. And what happens when it's not? When a low level of performance exists? Okay, just look at this list on the right. Conflict, poor strategy and planning, unethical choices. We've seen that in large corporations throughout history. And what happens when that happens? Stress, absenteeism, accidents, burnout. High levels of collaboration. We create an achievement culture, an inspiring atmosphere, improve relations. We nurture people's growth. We improve communication flow. But when it's not present, there's a lack of an abundance mentality, silos, elitism, micromanagement, and self-induced stress, bullying and toxic cultures. And you know it from my intro, you know how I feel about that. When there's a high level of innovation, you'll experience a progressive environment, faster solutions to problems, outside of the box thinking, proactivity, and a make it happen culture. But when there's low levels, it's risk averse. There's conservatism, stagnation and fixed mindsets versus growth, bureaucracy, a negative environment. And again, as I am sharing these slides, just notice what you're noticing in your environment. How much of the high level and how much of the low level exists in your organization? And last but not least, agility. When it's in place, there's increased buy-in, integrated decision-making, entrepreneurial spirit, fail quickly and try again mindset. People like and trust more. And when it's not working, inaction, slowness to act, red tape mentality, analysis paralysis, rigid mindset, and a lack of direction. So I'd like you just to take a moment. I mentioned this just a second ago, but think about, in your experience, what have you noticed when one of these competencies is on or off? Maybe you are experiencing that right now. I'm not going to ask you to share out publicly, but I'd like you to take a moment to think about that. What's happening right now in your environment? Is it on or is it off? So I'm going to transition to our third and final point here. I want to talk a little bit about the technology behind the 360 and how it all works. So the I4 Neuroleader model is a new generation of leadership assessments. It's a fully automated system where you can assess, track, and quantify your development from your very own dashboard. The questions in the assessment were developed based on personal experience, interviews, conversations and research that considers the latest neuroscience findings in the leadership domain, and was conducted by Sylvia Damiano, the CEO and founder of About My Brain Institute. The dashboard, not only is it beautiful, but it is seamless and personal. So this is just a snapshot of what you'll see after you've completed your 360 and how you can look at your results. And you'll see here the competencies. This is just a high level picture, but the competencies between how you rated yourself and how others rated you. You'll get a summary, which is what you're seeing here, but you'll also see a breakdown as you go further into the pillars and the elements. So you can see here, this person rated themselves a little higher than the others, this one a little lower. And this one is a gap. Their raters see themselves a lot higher here. And this is about in alignment. And this can be so helpful for a lot of reasons. You can find out, okay, yes, I'm seeing myself accurately. We're in alignment. Or, wow, did I rate myself higher than others? Why is that? Is there something I'm missing? And our system allows individuals to not only select people at work, but customers, clients, friends, family members. So it really is a true 360 from all aspects of your life so that you can see, how do people that are in my family rate me differently than how people rate me in my work environment, which can be very telling. And also, if you rate yourself, if a participant rates themselves lower than how their raters rate them, that's always useful information too. We always tend to be our biggest critics. So how can we ask our raters, what do you see in me that I don't? So looking at the clock, I'm going to advance this on. This is the time for you to type into chat any questions you have. And if you're watching the recording, please email me and let me know what questions you have. And with that in mind, here are some actions and some next steps. On this screen, you'll see that I am offering 3 I4 Neuroleader 360s with coaching sessions. Free, no cost to you, just a little bit of your time. And all I ask is you get on it. You book them with me by April 15th, and let's talk about them by the end of the month of May. On the screen, you'll see my QR code. Just aim your camera at it. It'll take you directly with ways to contact me. And I really look forward to hearing from you and working with you. Take advantage of these 360s and coaching sessions today. Thank you very much for either being here live or watching the recording. Have a great day.